Hey y'all, welcome to Jill Cameron Creations. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so y'all don't miss a single thing on my channel. And this is the card that we're going to be making today. It is a Slimline card. Hey y'all, today we're going to be making this card. I was inspired the other day by Justine Hovey's take a card and turn it into your own kind of thing. And I've been in kind of a creative rut, like what she said, when she was talking about, you get inspiration from other creators. And I really liked the blue and gold. And so that's what we're going to be recreating today. This is an ink blended panel, and I have snowflakes, heat embossed, and I have some die cut letters here and a frame. So let's go over what we're going to need today. I have blue inks. Of course, you could do this with any inks that you have. I'm using scrapbook.com, and I'm using their blue line. It's Midnight Blue, Postal Blue, Surfboard Blue, and Ballgown Blue. And I'm using the domed ink blending tools for that. And if you notice, there's no lines on this, because I used that. We're going to be using gold embossing powder, white embossing powder, and white satin pearl embossing powder. You'll need embossing ink. I am also using the Concord and 9th tall type alphabet dies. We're going to use some gold foil paper. And this is some really thin gold foil paper that has a slick back to it. And I really like it for layering instead of using a heavy gold cardstock. This is really, really pretty. And then the stamp set for the snowflakes that I used was this Concord and 9th Snow Flurries stamp set. Of course, you can use any snowflake stamp sets that you might have. So let's jump in and get started. Really wanted to show off the domed ink blending tools from scrapbook.com because they are just absolutely amazing. The material, it uses all of the ink instead of like soaking up so much ink, and I absolutely love these. I'm using scrapbook.com's ink as well. I'm using the blue line, like I said. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the lightest color, and that's that ballroom blue there. I'm using 80-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I've put a sticky note on the end of my hand, on my fingers there, so that I don't have inky fingerprints all over everything, because I am famous for doing that. Now, I start with that lightest color, and then I go on to the second one. I'm not real concerned that I put my ink blending tool down on my paper, because I can blend out these dome ink blending tools, and I'll actually show you that in just a second. When I moved my paper, I held it down a little too hard, and so you'll see it in just a second there. It is absolutely the easiest thing in the world to blend this out. I go back over this twice. I went from lightest to darkest and darkest to lightest so that I could get a really, really good blend. And that, there it is, right there, done. It is a great big huge spot there, but you can blend it out with these. It's really, really, really awesome. You'll also notice, and I'll show you here in just a second when I go back over on the second color, you'll see that when I pick up the ink blending tools, they kind of look, the color on the very top of it actually looks a lot lighter than the actual color, and that's because so much of the ink actually comes off of this blending tool, this foam sponge. It is amazing. I absolutely have fallen in love with them. I know a lot of people are really, really happy with like the makeup style brushes that are the real dense brushes. I have one or two, and I've tried to use them, and I'm just not a fan of them. That's my personal opinion. And if you like them, go for it. Use them. I still like my dome applicators with my handle here. I'm really still in love with this. And as you can see here, I'm just going back in from darkest to lightest now and blending everything back out. You can't see where I put that sponge down on there and really pressed it and I turned the paper all at the same time. You can't see that anymore. So that's pretty cool. The next thing that we're going to do is I need to let this dry. I did set this aside and take some heat to it, and it did buckle because I put a ton of ink on this paper. So what I'm going to do is to flatten this out, I'm going to put this in between just a regular sheet of typing paper, and then I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine real quick. That's going to flatten it out a little bit for me. We're going to go ahead and also splatter the background. I have a half of a box that I just pick up and put on my desk, and we're going to splatter some perfect pearls on here. I don't know why, for some reason I'm having a hard time actually finding perfect pearls. So thankfully Maker Forte has Kaleidoscope powders, and they are pigment powders, and it's the same premise as the perfect pearls is, and it's in a bunch of different colors. She has them in a bunch of gorgeous colors. And I still have my Perfect Pearls bottle. Like, if y'all have seen me do this, y'all have seen me do it a million times. And it's because I use that same bottle over and over and over and over and just refill it. So, I spared y'all me die cutting and putting together all these letters because I used the Concord and 9th tall alphabet set. And I die cut each of those letters out 3 times. So it has 2 layers of white cardstock behind it, and then it has a layer of gold cardstock on top of it. So I just wanted to make sure I'm using my Misty, number 1, because I was able to put the magnets on either end of the paper and hold it down flat, and also be able to use one of the alignment tools there and line up my word, and it worked perfectly for what I needed it for. So I am just going to go through real fast, and I'm going to line up my word here, and I got some smuts or something on that little eye dot there, and yeah. Me and tweezers don't get along too well. I have a hard time using tweezers. Most of the time I just do everything with my fingers and be done with it. I can use tweezers to set things down, but most of the time me and tweezers just don't get along too well. And if you've watched me for any length of time, you know that I'm using an old pair of Mrs. Grossman's stickers tweezers they're not the reverse tweezer things. They're not those. These are just a pair of needle nose tweezers that I absolutely love because they're heavy and I can do all kinds of things with them. Absolutely love it. They're not cheap feeling. Okay, anyway, the other thing that I wanted to point out is when I die cut this, I die cut these on my old plates. I have, a set of old plates, and of course you want to get every bit of mileage you can out of your plates. The Magic Mat, at the time that I'm recording this, is now available from scrapbook.com, and it is it's one of those self-healing mats. That's what it's made of, and it's made of recycled material. I'm gonna get one. I've actually already ordered it, and it shipped today. And if you're on my mailing list, you also got a link to it to go ahead and get it now. It's in 3 different sizes, and that Magic Mat is going to alleviate the fuzzies. I watched several videos on it, and it is going to take off the fuzzies. You know how after you've used that cutting mat for a while, one of those plates, that your dies start getting those fuzzy edges on it, and it's just because it's not a clean surface for it to cut on anymore. That's going to eliminate that, and I'm so thrilled to death to even check that out. So I'll be getting that, and I'll be doing a review of it here in the next probably in the next week, because usually scrapbook.com stuff gets to me usually within about 3 days of it being shipped, so I should have it sometime next week. I am using some snowflake stamps. You could use whatever snowflake stamps that you want, and the more I did heat setting on this, the more warped this paper got, and it's just because I'm putting a lot of stuff on it, and that's absolutely fine. We're going to flatten it out here in a minute. I've used different sizes of snowflakes and just randomly stamped them here and there. And then I used gold embossing powder. I used the satin pearl embossing powder, and I also used white embossing powder. And I just went ahead and did that all over the front of this card. And I'm using the slim card size of 3 3/4 by 8.5. That's what size I cut this panel in. So my card base is going to be the 7.5 by 8.5 is what my card size is going to be, and then it's scored, of course, at 3 3/4. So that's the card base that I'm using. And scrapbook.com also has some card bases and the pre-cut card bases and card panels and envelopes, and they actually have them in a set. And I included that link down below as well, because there's a lot of different sizing out there right now for slimline cards, but I think pretty much everybody has started going to the 3 3/4 by 8.5 size. It's a perfect size. It's a great size. And I also have a frame and slimline panel SVG available over in my store. So if you are a silhouette user, I have some, or a Cricut user, either one, I have the SVG files that are going to be available over in my store, and that's linked in the product listing down below as well, and over on my blog post. So you can go and check that out. I've got a lot of new stuff over in my store. I've got tons of new things that I'm working on behind the scenes, which is kind of why I haven't been posting a lot of cards lately. And I'm also have made a bunch of cards for Christmas cards and gift bundle cards and that kind of things for friends that wanted some. So this time of the year, I have my hands in absolutely everything. So, but I saw this card, like I said, over on Justine Hovey was inspired by a card similar to this, and I thought it was just the most beautiful thing. I loved the color palette of it and just the simple believe. And I think the original card had a great big believe on it, and I just didn't want to die cut those letters, and I just didn't have those letters in a big bold alphabet for die cutting. I could have done it on my silhouette, but I just didn't this evening. So I went ahead and I'm going to glue this straight down to my card base here, and then I'm going to add a gold frame around it. And the gold frame, like I said, is part of my SVG that's over in my store that's linked below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single video in the future. And I thank y'all so much for joining me today. And if y'all have any questions or need help creating a slimline card or anything, don't forget you can always drop me a comment down below, hit like on the video, and send me an email if you have questions or anything like that, and I'll be happy to help. Y'all have an absolutely amazing day.